Act 3 of Arms and the Men by George Bernard Shaw. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Arms and the Men, Act 3. In the library after lunch. It is not much of a library, its literary equipment consisting of a single fixed shelf stocked with old paper-covered novels, broken-backed, coffee-stained, torn and thumbed, and a couple of little hanging shelves with a few gift-books on them, the rest of the wall space being occupied by trophies of war and the chase. But it is a most comfortable sitting-room. A row of 3 large windows in the front of the house show a mountain panorama, which is just now seen in one of its softest aspects in the mellowing afternoon light. In the left-hand corner a square earthenware stove, a perfect tower of colored pottery, rises nearly to the ceiling and guarantees plenty of warmth. The ottoman in the middle is a circular bank of decorated cushions, and the window seats are well upholstered divans. Little Turkish tables, one of them with an elaborate hookah on it, and a screen to match them, complete the handsome effect of the furnishing. There is one object, however, which is hopelessly out of keeping with its surroundings. This is a small kitchen table, much the worse for wear, fitted as a writing table with an old canister full of pens, an egg cup filled with ink, and a deplorable scrap of severely used pink blotting paper. At the side of this table, which stands on the right, Bluntschli is hard at work, with a couple of maps before him, writing orders. At the head of it sits Sergius, who is also supposed to be at work, but who is actually gnawing the feather of a pen, and contemplating Bluntschli's quick, sure, businesslike progress with a mixture of envious irritation at his own incapacity, and awestruck wonder at an ability which seems to him almost miraculous, though its prosaic character forbids him to esteem it. The Major is comfortably established on the ottoman, with a newspaper in his hand and a tube of the hookah within his reach. Catherine sits at the stove, with her back to them, embroidering. Raina, reclining on the divan under the left-hand window, is gazing in a daydream out at the Balkan landscape, with a neglected novel in her lap. The door is on the left. The button of the electric bell is between the door and the fireplace. Petkoff, looking up from his paper to watch how they are getting on at the table.
Are you sure I can't help you in any way, Bluntschli?
Bluntschli, without interrupting his writing or looking up.
Quite sure, thank you. Saranoff and I will manage it.
Sergius, grimly.
Yes, we'll manage it. He finds out what to do, draws up the orders, and I sign 'em. Division of labor, Major.
Bluntschli passes him a paper.
Another one? Thank you.
He plants the papers squarely before him, sets his chair carefully parallel to them, and signs with the air of a man resolutely performing a difficult and dangerous feat.
This hand is more accustomed to the sword than to the pen.
It's very good of you, Bluntschli. It is indeed, to let yourself be put upon in this way. Now, are you quite sure I can do nothing?
Catherine, in a low, warning tone.
You can stop interrupting, Paul.
Petkoff, starting and looking round at her.
Oh, quite right, my love, quite right.
He takes his newspaper up, but lets it drop again.
Ah, you haven't been campaigning, Catherine. You don't know how pleasant it is for us to sit here after a good lunch with nothing to do but enjoy ourselves. There's only one thing I want to make me thoroughly comfortable.
What is that?
My old coat. I'm not at home in this one. I feel as if I were on parade.
My dear Paul, how absurd you are about that old coat. It must be hanging in the blue closet where you left it.
My dear Catherine, I tell you I've looked there. Am I to believe my own eyes or not?
Catherine quietly rises and presses the button of the electric bell by the fireplace.
What are you showing off that bell for?
She looks at him majestically and silently resumes her chair and her needlework.
My dear, if you think the obstinacy of your sex can make a coat out of 2 old dressing gowns of Raina's, you're waterproof, and my mackintosh, you're mistaken. That's exactly what the blue closet contains at present.
Nicola presents himself. Catherine, unmoved by Petkoff's sally.
Nicola, go to the blue closet and bring your master's old coat here, the braided one he usually wears in the house.
Yes, madam.
Nicola goes out.
Catherine,
Yes, Paul?
I bet you any piece of jewelry you like to order from Sophia against a week's housekeeping money that the coat isn't there.
Done, Paul.
Petkoff, excited by the prospect of a gamble.
Come, here's an opportunity for some sport. Who'll bet on it? Blunchley, I'll give you 6-1.
Bluntschli, imperturbably.
It would be robbing you, Major. Madam is sure to be right.
Without looking up, he passes another batch of papers to Sergius. Sergius, also excited.
Bravo, Switzerland! Major, I bet my best charger against an Arab mare for Raina that Nicola finds the coat in the blue closet.
Petkoff eagerly.
Your best shot.
Catherine hastily interrupting him.
Don't be foolish, Paul. An Arabian mare will cost you 50,000 levers.
Raina, suddenly coming out of her picturesque reverie.
Really, mother, if you are going to take the jewellery, I don't see why you should grudge me my Arab.
Nicola comes back with the coat and brings it to Petkoff, who can hardly believe his eyes.
Where was it, Nicola?
Hanging in the blue closet, madam.
Well, I am...
Paul!
I could have sworn it wasn't there. Age is beginning to tell on me. I'm getting hallucinations.
To Nicola.
Here, help me change. Excuse me, Bluntschli.
He begins changing coats, Nicola acting as a valet.
Remember, I didn't take that bet of yours, Sergius. You'd better give Raina that Arab steed yourself, since you've roused her expectations. Eh, Raina?
He looks round at her, but she is again wrapped in the landscape. With a little gush of paternal affection and pride, he points her out to them and says,
She's dreaming, as usual.
Assuredly she shall not be the loser.
So much the better for her. I shan't come off so cheap, I expect.
The change is now complete. Nicola goes out with a discarded coat.
Ah, now I feel at home at last.
He sits down and takes his newspaper with a grunt of relief. Bluntschli to Sergius, handing a paper.
That's the last order.
Petkoff, jumping up.
What, finished?
Finished.
Petkoff goes beside Sergius, looks curiously over his left shoulder as he signs, and says with childlike envy,
Haven't you anything for me to sign?
Not necessary. His signature will do.
Oh, well, I think we've done a thundering good day's work.
He goes away from the table.
Can I do anything more?
You had better both see the fellows that are to take these.
To Sergius.
Pack them off at once, and show them that I've marked on the orders the time they should hand them in by. Tell them that if they stop to drink or tell stories, if they're 5 minutes late, they'll have the skin taken off their backs.
Sergius rising indignantly.
I'll say so, and if one of them is man enough to spit in my face for insulting him, I'll buy his discharge and give him a pension.
He strides out, his humanity deeply outraged. Bluntschli confidentially.
Just see that he talks to them properly, Major, will you?
Petkoff officiously.
Quite right, Bluntschli, quite right. I'll see to it.
He goes to the door importantly, but hesitates on the threshold.
By the by, Catherine, you may as well come too. They'll be far more frightened of you than of me.
Catherine putting down her embroidery.
I dare say I had better. You will only splutter at them.
She goes out, Petkoff holding the door for her and following her.
What a country! They make cannons out of cherry trees, and the officers send for their wives to keep discipline.
He begins to fold and docket the papers. Raina, who has risen from the divan, strolls down the room with her hands clasped behind her, and looks mischievously at him.
You look ever so much nicer than when we last met.
He looks up, surprised.
What have you done to yourself?
Washed, brushed, good night's sleep and breakfast. That's all.
Did you get back safely that morning?
Quite, thanks.
Were they angry with you for running away from Sergius's charge?
No, they were glad, because they'd all just run away themselves.
Raina going to the table and leaning over it towards him.
It must have made a lovely story for them. All that about me and my room.
Capital story, but I only told it to one of them. A particular friend.
On whose discretion you could absolutely rely?
Absolutely.
Hmm.